So in this video, we're going to talk about using Snowflake with Astronomer. So all of the links to the code that you'll need can be found in the video's description. The first thing you're going to want to do is download the Astronomer CLI. That's just going to give you what you need to start a local version of Airflow to run this code. Once you get that, pop over to the Airflow guides repo and pull down the Snowflake example. Once you pull that down, navigate to that project directory in a terminal, and we can get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is run Astro Airflow init. And that's just going to generate some config files and some skeleton files. So let's just see what's going on in here, and I'll run tree. In here, I'll have my DAGs directory, where I store my DAGs. My packages.txt, where I store any OS level packages that I need. So I can just cat those out. We run Alpine Linux under the hood, so everything's as slim as possible. So you're going to need to make sure you have all the packages that you need. And then the same way, if I cat out requirements.txt, I can see the Python packages that I need. So once I have everything I need to start running my code, I can type Astro Airflow start. And what that's going to do is that's going to take that entire directory and package it into a Docker image and run that locally on my machine. This is to simulate a test environment, so you know that the same code runs locally is the same code that's going to run in your cluster. So I have my Airflow web server here. I can pop over there, and this should spin right up. Yep. Cool. So I'll have this example DAG that gets generated by default and my Snowflake example. So I can pop in here and see what this does. And in the same way, I'm going to open up the code in Atom. So this is a pretty basic example. All it's going to do is upload this random bunch of numbers into S3, and then from S3 it's going to push that into Snowflake. And then once it's in Snowflake, it's going to generate some tables of the sum, average, and standard deviation of those numbers. Cool. So before I can run my code, I have to make sure that my Snowflake connection is available to my DAG. So I'll go to Connections, Create, and create my Snowflake connection. Cool. Now that my connection's in here, I can pop back over to my DAG and turn it on and watch it start executing. So the first task succeeded. Second one, uploading data to S3. Looks like that failed. So let's go in here and check out these logs. Airflow by default logs everything, so you're going to have to do a lot of scrolling. And it looks like I forgot to enter my S3 credentials. So the same way I entered my Snowflake connection, I can enter an S3 connection. Let's just call it Astronomer S3. Cool. So now that S3 connection's in there, I can go back to my graph view, go over here, and clear out this failure. This will tell Airflow to queue this task up again, along with all of the downstream ones that didn't execute because this first task had failed. So it looks like the data uploaded succeeded this time. Syncing to Snowflake worked. And give these queries just a second. And all of my queries ran successfully. So now I've successfully verified that my DAG runs in my local environment. I can push this up to my cluster now. So go back to my terminal here. I will do an astro auth login, and then what my base domain is. This will take me through an OAuth authentication flow. So I'll just take this, copy to my browser. And I've authenticated. So I can go over to my Astronomer front end, and I can see that I have one Airflow instance running right now. From the CLI or the UI, I can do an Astro deployment list, and that verifies that one instance. But I'm going to want to deploy this into a fresh Airflow instance. So I'll do Astro deployment create. We'll call this Snowflake example. This will spin up an entirely new version of Airflow straight into my Astronomer Kubernetes cluster. So if I refresh this, now there's two there, my Snowflake example. Now I can do Astro Airflow deploy, and I'm prompted for which Airflow I want to deploy to. Let's just deploy the Snowflake in the Snowflake example. And the same way that this image was built locally, it's going to build the image again and push it up to the cloud. So the first time this happens, this will take a minute, just because that registry that we push everything to is entirely empty to start. But successive pushes should be a lot faster, as those previous layers will have already existed. So now that this is pushed, I can go over to my Snowflake example, go to my Airflow dashboard, and that same code is available in the cloud for me to run. So this was a pretty simple example, but you can write your DAG to do a lot more advanced things. Feel free to check out our guides or our example code repo for anything else that you need.